All right, welcome everybody back to the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Summit on day two. Super excited to have you all join us again after our kickoff event yesterday. And I am just thrilled by the guests that we have today for you. Well, first, I'll just introduce her, Sage Lavine, CEO of Conscious Women's Leadership and creator of the International Women on Purpose Telesummit. Here joining us today. Welcome, Sage. So
Hi,
happy to have
everyone.
you.
What a beautiful event you've put together. It's exciting to be here, and I just love what you're creating. I love your book, Jesse, and love your tribe, and it's just, I want to congratulate you all for being here and taking the time to focus on your business and the lifestyle that you want. Super exciting.
Thanks so much. And Sage is joining us from her beautiful beach house in Santa Cruz there. She just showed me a peek outside the window, and there's people out on the beach. Looked like a very lifestyle entrepreneur-esque scenery.
Pretty awesome.
And so just by way of introduction for Sage, we've known each other only a few short months, but I feel like we have a very sort of kindred spirit outlook and approach on life and business. As for background, I think we met just around New Year's Day at a friend's house, after party from New Year's Eve, and started talking about what are we looking at accomplishing, what do we want to do this year. And I forget if I brought up or if you did first, Sage, but somehow it came up the idea of doing a retreat in Bali in Indonesia. And right away there is this, you're like, oh my gosh, that was my first big event. And so right away I knew that you were somebody that I wanted to spend more time with and get to know. And as I've come to learn more about your business and everything you've been involved with, it's just so impressive and inspirational. And so doubly glad to have you join us here.
Yeah, me too. Me too for you. It's really fun when you bump into another like-minded sort of entrepreneurial visionary like Jesse, and Jesse, you just beam and emanate so much light, and I know that all of you know what I'm talking about when you bump into those people in the world and you're like, oh, this person's like me, and all of a sudden there's this energy exchange that's feeding both of you. And pay attention to those connections. One of the things I want to talk about today is that connection is currency. Literally, connection is currency in your business, and to really create a life that that you love, and a business that fits into your life rather than the other way around. Like, you want a business that fits into your life rather than a life that's fitting into your business. And Jesse, that's what you're all about. If you want that, if you want a business that fits into your life, you've got to pay attention to these kinds of connections, because the universe wants us to have the freedom that we want, but we have to pay attention to when there's that spark of connection between people that we meet, and trust that and see where it flows. It's been a big part of my journey, and it's just really fun to see what you've created here, Jesse. It's so phenomenal.
Well, I'm so happy you said that, and I mean, thank you. But that's also something that I've always kept an eye out for. And when I was putting together Lifestyle Entrepreneur, my whole thought process was, what was the common thread that led me from being in a rock band to doing renewable energy credits to learning Chinese, and all these seemingly disparate things. But when I really unpacked it, and tell me if this is your experience too, I realized that it was just elaborating the things that I was interested in and passionate about, and building some type of a business model around it to almost have it be like a glue.
Yep.
That secured that interest and let me ride it for a year or two, meeting other people within the identity of that type of business owner. And really, most of those businesses and the things that I've been involved in were precipitated by that spark or that moment when you're like, oh, this is somebody that I'll surely be in touch with and
Totally.
Develop a relationship over time.
Yep. Yeah, and then what I want to acknowledge you for too is like following up. Like you followed up. You were like, okay, so we met at this party, and you're up to amazing things. You referenced one of the conversations that we had, and you're like, here's how I see us working together in the future. You had a plan for our relationship. I'm doing this summit. I'd like to interview you. And you really kept that relationship moving along. I know that a lot of us who are creative geniuses, we want to be lifestyle entrepreneurs. We have a ton of ideas. Write this down. I think this is really crucial. Never leave the sight of an inspired idea without taking action. right? Like never leave the sight of that inspired idea without taking some action that can pull that inspiration through. Because as creative visionaries, we're very good at starting, and we're usually not as good at finishing. It's one of the things that I've had to develop the muscle of being a strong finisher to build a 7-figure company, you know. And Jesse, I want to just acknowledge you for for the way that you followed up with me and the way that you pulled that relationship through. I think that's something that all of you who are listening can really learn from.
I think that's really good advice. And, you know, even though in this case it totally worked out and we ended up getting to know each other better and really have this great connection, I can still, it makes me think of at least, you know, 5 other times when I didn't follow up as much as I could or should. And I think, you know, we all have that happen. So it's not so much about beating yourself up on it, but just seeing what's possible when you do pull that thread forward and make the extra effort to develop a relationship or follow up on that spark. Because a spark doesn't turn into a flame or a burning bonfire by itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perhaps to go with that spark analogy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So write that down. Follow up, follow up, follow up. I always write I make my clients write that particular phrase down 3 times. I just think it's more important than almost anything else that you'll learn in business. And you know, really, truly, that the moment that we get that spark or that inspiration, it could be an idea, it can be a connection with another person. The moment that we get that is the moment that it will be the strongest, you know, and anything after that point, it's actually difficult to get back to that level of heightened inspiration. And yet we tend to make ourselves wrong because, you know, down the line, a few days out or a few weeks out, we're like, well, I'm not as inspired about it, so maybe like it's really not meant to be. But I will tell you that if you're acting that way, you're leaving a lot of brilliant ideas on the table. So when you actually get the idea or when you actually meet the person, like for me, I was just at the Unstoppable Gala. It was this big 2,000-person fundraiser in LA. I got to talk to Jack Canfield. I got to talk to Bob Proctor. And like I put Jack's email address right in my phone. He was like, hey, maybe I should interview you for my new book. I was like, great, let me get your email address right now. Who should I have my assistant follow up with? You know, it's like if I don't do it right there, I might forget, I might not ask, I might follow through and drop that amazing connection that I had. So, you know, when you get that idea, get out your phone. When you meet that person, get out your phone and be like, when can I follow up? Plug their email address right into your calendar and send yourself an alert. Or like for me, if I get an idea, I have an event coming up. If I get an idea about my event, when I get the idea, like I'll just plug it right into my phone, or I'll email my assistant right there, like, hey, can we buy those mala beads for everybody that hops into the Entrepreneurial Leadership Academy? Like, will you just order 300? Like, I'm just telling her right then when I have the idea, because if I let that stuff build up in my mind, it never gets done, you know? So, I mean, even like, say you get an idea of a kind of business project that you could launch. Like, open up your calendar right then and find a 2-hour time slot that you could schedule in for yourself. Like, when could I do more research on this idea? Or, you know what, Jesse Krieger knows about this. You know, I could call him up. Or, you know, I met this guy at this networking event. I could call him up. He could help me with that. Like, put it in your phone. Be like, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Okay, I've got an opening. Plug into your calendar. You know, call Jesse Krieger. And by the way, I don't want everybody calling Jesse because, you know, he's only got some I don't want to use you as an example, Jesse. I know you're busy right now. But I hope you get the sentiment of this, is that this is one of the things that will make the biggest difference in your business, is if you can literally never leave the sight of that inspired idea without taking some form of action. It'll change your life.
I love that. And the other thing you said that I want to touch on there is doing actually scheduling the time to take the next action.
Yep.
But even in a broader sense, like scheduling block time to be creative or to work on projects, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and caught up with the day-to-day. If we don't have it in our calendar, like walled off, this is where I'm going to focus on accomplishing something in this specific area. Otherwise, don't you find, or is it your experience, Sage, if we don't do that, that it's easy to go into reactivity and just like manage from your inbox or
totally. You're spinning your wheels, you're putting out fires all day long. It's insane. I told a bunch of my diamond clients, were like, Sage, like, how do you find time to like plan your event? Like literally, how do you find time to write the content for your event? Because they know I work 12 days a week. I work the first Monday through Thursday of the first 3 weeks of the month. I take Fridays off. I take the last week of every month completely off. So I work 12 days a week. So they're all, my clients are always like, how are you doing everything that we see you doing? And it's because I delegate a lot, and because I literally, like, when I get the idea or when something needs to be done, I just do it right then. And so, like, when I plan content for my big 3-day event that's coming up, I literally just plugged in 2 hours where I sat down with my assistant, and I just had her, like, I mapped out all the ideas that I had to teach in the weekend, and I had her help me organize them. And, you know, like, I was hand-free. Like, she typed it all, and she created my slides for me. She sent me a draft. I sent her back some edits. She sent them to the graphics department. You know, she sent them to graphics, and then graphics plugged in all the images for us, and we were good. It's like I didn't do much. You know what I mean? So you can get to that point where you can really leverage your time. But a tip for all of you, whether you have an assistant yet or not, is that some of the most successful people, and I did what Jesse's doing 2 years ago. I started interviewing 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs myself and asking them for their best ideas. And I can't believe how many of the entrepreneurs that I interviewed gave me this tip when I asked them about their schedule and how they manage their schedule. They said, do away with your to-do list. No more to-do list. Anytime you think of something that you need to do, you put it right into your calendar. And as soon as you have an assistant, you give as much of that right to the assistant that you can. And that way, like, there's not that, like, growing list of, like, stuff you have to do. Like, yes, write everything. Like, get stuff down, get it somewhere, or else it's going to be in your head draining your energy. But what I'm saying is, like, when you think of something to do, just, like, be like, okay, when could I do it? And then plug it right into your calendar. And that way you don't have to have this to-do list that, like, piles up over time. That's just an energy drain. You know what I mean? So those are a couple of scheduling tips that'll really contribute to lifestyle freedom for all of you. We're so mobile these days. We can do so much from an iPhone. It's just incredible. I mean, we're living in an incredible time where our time freedom is really so available to us, and our income potential is limitless. I mean, we're living in a time where we can really design this thing the way that we want it. It's very exciting.
It's beyond exciting. And it's funny, like, a lot of times when I've talked about my book and my approach, I'm like, well, you could run a business conceivably from a laptop anywhere in the world, but more and more so, that includes an iPad and even an iPhone.
Seriously. I'm like, I wonder if I could make 7 figures with my iPhone. Like, maybe that's my 2015 challenge to myself.
You should put it in your schedule right now and alert your assistant.
Don't even touch a computer for the whole year. Just do it for my iPhone. Just do it with Siri. Siri would be my best friend.
I love that. Well, you know, you touched on something else that I'd love to unpack a little bit here and maybe zoom out and just get a snapshot of what it's like right now as Sage Lavine in your business with your different programs and the seminars. And you mentioned you only work 12 days a month. How do you experience being an entrepreneur and specifically a lifestyle entrepreneur with the stage and state that your business is at now? And then from there, maybe we can unpack how you built it to get that way. But I'm sure a lot of people's ears perked up when they heard you say you only work 12 days a month.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I told you, Jesse, I started out from the career of being a public school teacher. I come from a long line of school teachers. So my mom taught kindergarten, my dad taught college. I was, you know, the daughter of a direct descendant of a lot of service-oriented professionals. And so they all taught me to work hard for a paycheck and have my summers off. You know, like there were 3 reasons to be a teacher: June, July, and August, right? So when I left teaching after 4 years, my whole family was like, "What? You're leaving teaching?" And I love the kids, but they actually, at that time, they had actually cut my funding for the field trips I was leading. I was taking my kids to the Redwoods and to the California coast, and they cut all that funding. So I wasn't going to be able to do any field trips anymore unless I, you know, came up with, and I had actually already written grants and gotten outside sources of funding to do that stuff. And like even that stuff, it was the time that, you know, of budget cuts 7 or 8 years ago. It was like major financial crunch time for schools, and like there just wasn't the funding, and I just kept getting backed into a corner with how I really wanted to teach and what I really wanted to do with young people. So At that point, I took all my savings, moved into an RV with my husband at the time, and we set out soul searching. I did my yoga teacher training that year. I did my life coach purpose certification. At that point, I was a Reiki master. I was an artist. And I set about the task of finding another way to make money, because my soul was just dying as a high school science teacher. And it wasn't because of the kids. I love the kids. But it was the standardized tests and the 38 student classrooms. And the fact that I wasn't really getting any freedom or support from the school system to be able to do what I wanted to do. Now, there's incredible teachers out there. And I used everything that I learned being a teacher to launch my business. I'm super grateful. And what was the hardest for me, Jesse, was that I had no idea how to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea how to sell myself. And in the teaching world, and if any of you are teachers or you're friends with a teacher, you know that this is true. It's just completely different from being an entrepreneur. In the teaching world, teachers will just like beg, borrow, and steal each other's lesson plans, and they're always supporting each other. And it's like if you find something that keeps 35 eighth graders busy for an hour, you photocopy it and give it to everybody in the building. It's like, oh my God, this works. Here, let me help you. Well, with entrepreneurship, it's just not quite that collaborative by nature, because we all have to have our own trademarks and we all have to have our own content. And I found this industry to be very intimidating at first. I was just like, oh my gosh, like people are competing with each other. And I remember my first coach gave me this huge talking to about how I couldn't photocopy any of her materials and they were all trademarked. And I just remember being like, oh my God, like I don't belong here, you know? And I found my way. And one of the ways that I found my way was through collaborative business growing tools and strategies, just like Jesse's doing right here with me, where, you know, I promoted this event. Jesse's also promoted this event. Some of my people are watching. Some of Jesse's people are watching. Some of Alicia, was it Alicia that you interviewed yesterday? Some of Alicia's people, you know, some of Alicia's people are watching. It's like we got together for this collaborative event and we pulled all of you together, and then we're all going to be able to have a way of keeping in touch with you, right? So it's a wonderful way for us to all serve and support in the way that we want. And some of you will end up potentially wanting to know more from me, and some of you will want to know more from Alicia. And, you know, we all will end up getting some business out of this endeavor in some way, shape, or form in a beautiful way, because we're just exposing what we're doing to each other. And so this kind of model, which is a telesummit model, it's an interview series model, is the model that I use to grow my company too. And I really want to invite all of you to pay attention to the way that Jesse's doing this, because not only is he interviewing people online, but he's really innovated the strategy. He's doing it on Google Hangouts. It's very interactive. Are people able to chat with each other, Jesse?
Yeah, there's on the page for everybody that's on the lifestyleentrepreneurssummit.com/Sage-Lavine watching us live, there is a chat box, and if you don't see anything for whatever reason, just go ahead and refresh the page, but we're streaming live there.
Great. So
yeah, I really resonate with what you're saying, Sage, in the sense that I've experienced as well, like there's some aspects of entrepreneurship where it's very sort of solitary and you feel like, all right, it's me and my idea and I've got to get it down and bring it out to the world. But it's so much more fun to collaborate and interact with people and have events and situations where the sum is greater than the parts, and you get this cross exposure and get to learn from other people. I mean, that's really my big upside from having inspirational entrepreneurs like yourself and everybody else on the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Summit. I get to sort of sit back. Sure, I get to host and facilitate the discussion, but I'm also taking notes in my mind. I got a little notepad right here off screen. So it's a great way to blend learning with growing a community, and just if you believe in karma and giving back, you know, I've tried to go above and beyond to do press releases and other promotions so that people feel taken care of and loved being part of this summit. So
Totally. It's really brilliant. And for those of you that have started your business and you can relate to some of what I'm saying and what Jesse is saying around just the isolation or feeling maybe intimidated by the selling piece of this, I really recommend checking out collaborative business growing strategies. Look at doing a telesummit, look at doing some sort of a collaborative list grow. And pay attention to what Jesse's up to because he's doing an excellent job with this. Is it your website /Sage that should get us to the place where we could chat, Jesse?
There's it's lifestyleentrepreneurssummit.com /Sage-Lavine.
Okay, that's important. Cool. So yeah.
And pretty much everybody should be watching there or from the Google Plus thing.
Of this, I really recommend checking out.
You're gonna want to hit the mute if you keep that.
I am gonna want to hit mute. I want to just recommend that you introduce yourself there. Let us know who you are, where you're listening from, and what your focus of your business is. And let this be a networking opportunity. Let this be an opportunity where you can meet a few other entrepreneurs, follow up with people who are doing something similar to you. Connection really is currency. And here's the thing is that what you're doing, all of you really, is very new paradigm, and you're really pioneers. You're blazing a trail. And I'm guessing that sometimes it probably feels like you're a little bit alone in it, and sometimes it probably feels like you're way outside of your comfort zone, or maybe you're not meant to be doing it or cut out to be doing it. I can totally relate to that. It's really important to be in touch with other entrepreneurs. It's really important to get to know other entrepreneurs when you're at events like this or other events. So definitely introduce yourself there. I'd love to know what you all are up to. I'd love to continue to stay in touch and connect, and it's a great way to really take advantage of what Jesse and I are talking about with the connection is currency piece.
That's a great invitation to connect with Sage there and stay in touch with us for sure. And I wanted to ask a question here, maybe tracing back a little bit to the start, Sage, and see if the environment you grew up in and how you were raised, was that conducive or supportive of entrepreneurship? Or did it feel like you were sort of going against the grain to strike out on your own? Did you feel supported and encouraged to start to build your business, or was it like a huge psychological barrier that you had to break through?
A huge psychological barrier, way huge, super, super huge. Yeah, in a big way, huge. And none of
active resistance against you striking out to start your business, or was there a antagonist and a sort of somebody specific that might have been trying to hold you back?
My mom, I'll never forget when I would, my mom on several occasions was like, I really think you should go back and get a job, when I was having a hard time paying the bills because I didn't have enough clients. I just remember being so confused about where are my clients and how do I get the word out about what I'm doing? And at one point, I hired a business coach who told me I had to go out and have 10 business conversations every day with strangers. And it was terrifying because I had just moved to Santa Cruz. I didn't even have community here. I didn't even know anybody here. And I was literally, my business coach had me going up to strangers in the supermarket and striking up a conversation and trying to get a client. And I had so much rejection, Jesse. I was so embarrassed and mortified by some of what went on. And I can tell you it was a great experience overall because I just got more comfortable with the rejection. I got to the point where I'm like, okay, who cares, But what I knew was that I knew there was an easier way. I knew there had to be an easier way to get the message out about what I did than me having to go basically cold call or strike up cold conversations in my community. And what I found is that getting out there as a speaker or getting out there as a telesummit host or getting online.
Sage, you back with us?
I think I'm back. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you and hear you.
Oh, good. Sorry about that.
Have you back.
Yay, back in attack.
Mm-hmm. I think you were just sharing about how you overcame or how you started by having just really cold sort of
those conversations, man, they were so scary. I knew there had to be a better way, and I was already nervous, Jesse, because I was already this public school teacher who was so nervous. I was the girl who didn't know how to sell Girl Scout cookies, And so because I knew there had to be another way, I went about the business of finding it. And that's when I started speaking locally in my community. I spoke at the bookstore. I spoke at chiropractors' clinics in their waiting rooms. I spoke wherever anybody would let me speak for free, because I come from this place of being very feminine, and ultimately I feel very comfortable giving of myself. And what I found is that when I can be generous and when I can lead with service and content and teaching and sharing with people, it's very natural for me to let people know that there's more where that came from. And so for me, and for a lot of my clients that end up in one of my programs, it's more comfortable to start with giving and start with just getting in front of people than it is to try to get one client at a time in sort of like these small talk conversations. So if you feel like that would be an approach that would work for you, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend speaking for free. A lot of people, as soon as they start speaking, think like, oh, I deserve to get paid a lot of money to speak. But the truth is that you can make thousands of dollars on the back end of any speaking engagement. The opportunity to get in front of people is rare. It's a huge opportunity. And when you follow up from that speaking engagement with enrollment conversations and a chance for people to find out more about what you do, and especially when you know the skills of enrollment and the skills of giving some sort of a signature talk that really leads people to the obvious next step of wanting to work with you more, it's a very beautiful way to fill your practice. It's a very beautiful way to get the word out about what you do. And it really eliminates some of what Jesse and I are talking about, where it's like it can just be so painful to try to get out there in the beginning. When you're bringing a message that's so close to your heart, it's so near and dear to your heart, and it's not like you're selling somebody else's product. You know, there's nothing to hide behind in a purpose messenger-based business. And you know, Jesse, you asked me a little bit about like where I've been and where I am now, and I mean, I sort of look around my life and I can't believe I'm living this life. Like, I went paddleboarding in Santa Cruz yesterday. I met with a couple clients. I took another walk up on Depot Hill in Capitola, if anybody's ever been here, above like this just huge pelican reserve. And, you know, there were dolphins dancing in the bay. Let's just stop for a minute. I grew up in Iowa. You know, like, I grew up in Iowa and I made $32,000 a year as a public school teacher. And, now, you know, it's just like I had days, I had weeks where I doubted that this was ever possible. And now I'm living it. You know, let me see if I can show you a quick view of the bay here. It's so beautiful here.
Lifestyle entrepreneur tour of Sage's place here.
Can you see?
I hear birds chirping, and I see a nice beach scene.
It's just amazing. I mean, I just thought I was going to have to be like 70 years old and rich to live in a house like this, you know? And it's just not the case. I love my lifestyle, and what I love equally as much, Jesse, is my ability to give back. I think I told you last time we talked that we were able to write a $10,000 check last month to the Pachamama organization, the women in South America, in the south of Brazil, really saving tracts of Amazon rainforest. And you know, the story that I most love to tell, hold on just a second, I'm going to plug in my computer.
Sure, while you're saying that, I've been to the Pachamama luncheon as well, and they do amazing work with the indigenous tribes in the rainforest down there. So kudos to you for supporting their mission as well.
Thank you. It's so exciting. You know, I think I told you that my very first business project was the Bali retreat. And I'll share with you all that my business actually took off at a time when my personal life was completely falling apart. My husband and I had just separated. And I was coming to terms with the fact that we wanted totally different things in life, and that I wasn't going to be able to have the lifestyle that I really wanted if I stayed married to him. And the only thing that got me through my divorce, because he's one of my dear friends, and at the time he was my best friend. And I had grown up with him, and I didn't really know how to live life without him. And the only thing that got me through that painful separation from him was this vision of leading a retreat in Bali. And when I decided to lead the retreat in Bali, I really had no idea how to fill a retreat like that on the other side of the world. And my very first business coach still jokes and still makes fun of me and still tells his story, Ryan Eliason, on his webinars. He's like, Sage, you're the only entrepreneur that I know that would have needed to grow a list of 5,000 people just to fill a 20-person retreat in Bali. But that was what I did. It was like I just had the vision of the Bali retreat, and it's what kept me going. And so, you know how and I know that you can, all those of you who are listening, I know you can relate to this. It's like there's something that you want to do, and it's just like you just don't even really know why you want to do it. Like, I knew a retreat in Bali wasn't going to put me on the map in a big way. It wasn't going to make me a lot of money, but it was like I just knew I had to follow that instinct. And what was amazing that in the following of the instinct to lead that retreat in Bali, I had the second best idea that I've ever had, which was to launch the first Women on Purpose Telesummit. I interviewed 24 successful women entrepreneurs, Janet Atwood and Marcia Wieder and Laura Langmeyer. You might know some of these names. And I grew that first database of 5,000 people, of which I launched the Bali retreat to. I filled the Bali retreat. And I literally was, Jesse, I was a mess. Like, I had just left my husband. I had no confidence that I'd be able to pull off this retreat. Like, I'm not the kind of person that lays around. I was in bed for 3 days. I hadn't eaten. Thank God my friend Heather was coming to assist me on this retreat. She's an international choir director, and she was going to lead some vocal stuff for the retreat. She literally had to come over, pack my bag for me. Now, here's the deal, is that one of the components of my vision was that I was going to blend American Western women with Indonesian women. I didn't want this to be a retreat where we just went over there and had like this tourist experience. I wanted to have like an Indonesian experience. But I had no idea how it would happen because I Googled like women's groups in Bali, and like at the time, nothing came up that was like had any sort of credibility whatsoever. So what was amazing is that even though I had no idea how it was going to come to fruition, like I could barely get myself to Bali at that point. I was grieving so hard. I had no idea how painful it would be to leave a marriage of 10 years. I had this guy knock on my door. This is a true story. I had this guy knock on my door the night before I left for Bali. He was a friend of a friend. And he said, I heard you're going to Bali. I have a friend over there who leads a women's organization. She helps women leave abusive situations and start businesses in Bali. And I have $1,200. This is a bonus that I got from work. And she needs this money a lot more than I do. When I heard you were going over there, I just felt like I wanted you to bring her this money. I've donated to her before. If I send the money through the bank system, the banks are going to take 20% off the top. Will you bring this to her? And he handed me his Bali cell phone because he spent a couple of years in Bali. And he said, her number's in the cell phone. As soon as you get there, all you have to do is text her and she'll come pick it up. And I was thinking, okay, first of all, I hope this isn't illegal.
Yeah, it sounds very like a top secret mission, international money.
First of all, I hope I'm not breaking the law. And second of all, this could be the best answered prayer that I've ever gotten. So I text her when I get to Bali. She comes and finds me at the retreat center. She sits down in front of me. I take one look at her, and I feel like I've known this woman for my entire life. We have a soul connection. And she proceeds to tell me her story, which is similar to my story, which is that she could not live her mission in a relationship that she had previously been in. And she was on a mission to help women who were stuck in situations because of money, which was one of the reasons why I stayed in my marriage so long, Jesse, was because of money. Mm. And she was on a mission to help women around the world who were stuck in situations because of money, specifically abusive situations, make enough money to be able to have choice as to whether to leave that situation or not, and to make money in an empowered way rather than turning to prostitution. At that point, she had helped half a dozen women start businesses, and we funded her. I ended up inviting her to my retreat. She brought some of her women. We had our women. We all danced together and got to know each other and brainstormed together. And hearing her story, right, she's seen women who have showed up at her house in the middle of the night having left an abusive partner. And they're so afraid, and they're so courageous. And They're willing to do whatever it takes to find another way to live. And she's telling me these stories. My group was able to raise another $10,000 for her on that retreat, and since then we've given her over $25,000 to rent a safe house. We've helped 37 women in Indonesia leave abusive situations and start businesses. And I'll never forget looking in her eyes and seeing what she had seen. And I made a commitment to myself. I don't have the luxury to spend a lot of time in overwhelm or grief. Because if this woman can do what she's doing, I have an obligation to build a business that I love and give back to women that I could make a huge difference with. I mean, $50 a month would fund an entire family in Indonesia, right? It doesn't take very much. I'm not sharing this story because I want you to be able to raise $25,000 for your favorite organization, although it'd be great if you could. It'd be great if we could all, raise a lot more than that. But even $25 a month can literally change somebody's life on the other side of the planet or even right down the street from you. Like, let's not forget that people right down the street from you are, like, they don't have the privilege of being able to have the kinds of conversations that you and I and every single one of you on this live stream, on this Google Hangout, have the privilege of having. Like, we all really have privileged problems. And what I learned from Tika is that we can't afford to be in overwhelm. And I feel like it's just, when I give back, Jesse, like I'm also giving back to my life. Like, I notice every time I give back, I'm also giving back to myself. And my business just works in just like that little bit juicier kind of a way to like pull me forward and to keep my vision being bigger than myself and to have a reason, to get more efficient, to create the lifestyle I want so that I have more than enough to give. I really believe we're living in a time where it's almost socially irresponsible to not build businesses that also give back.
I'm right there with you. And that's an incredible story. I think you had shared the beginning of it, but I had no idea how much you had played it forward and become an ongoing part of her life, as well as helping, or at least contributing in part to dozens and dozens of women having that type of choice and freedom. And I just really honor you and respect you for doing that.
Thank you.
You touched on a few other things that I want to come back to just for a moment. This difference between the vision you had for the event in Bali and it seeming far off, perhaps no idea how you were going to realize it, I can't even imagine the emotional process of breaking up a relationship of 10 years or so. At what point did you start to see the scales tip and start to say, well, maybe this is going to happen, or this might not be totally crazy and slightly realistic after all? Because somewhere on that continuum from I've got this great idea, I really want to do it, and it just feels like something I have to chase after, to getting on that flight after getting a knock on the door with something that at this point, was an incredibly synchronistic moment for somebody to show up. Almost, you could argue it's beyond coincidence even.
Yeah.
But it's like the reward almost for going down that path and listening to that initially tiny voice. And I was just wondering, at what point did your perspective towards it start to shift and be like, oh, this is happening 100% for sure? Or was it not until you got on the plane and flew over there that you really embodied that you had done it?
It's a good question. I feel like there's a saying that my mentor says that I'd like to share here that I feel is really true, and it goes, bigger levels equals bigger devils. And I feel like it's important to know that the journey of moving beyond our comfort zone never really stops. Like, I kept thinking I was going to reach a point in my company, like where, where I had replaced my income, and then I would be able to just relax and everything would be smooth after that. It's like before, at the very moment that I start to replace my income, then I want to be able to, make $10,000 a month, and then I want to be able to help 100 more people, or I want 100 people in my group program, or I want to launch another retreat. It's like For those of us who are idea creative oriented people, like there's always going to be another dream. There's always going to be another bright and shiny object. We really need to be aware of that. And it's important to know that the gremlins, they keep talking to you at every level of your comfort zone. It's like we expand our comfort zone this month, this much this month, and then, we start to get like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then the very next thing that we decide to do, it's like we have to expand some more and some more. And like, what I know is that every time I go up a level or just expand out to reach more people, the voices like are still there. Like, who do you think you are? Or, most recently I was telling Jesse before the interview, like we lost one of my key staff members literally 10 days before the biggest live event of my life. We have almost 400 women flying in from all over the world to meet on the California coast for a 3-day entrepreneurial retreat here called the Women's Leadership Summit. And I lost one of my key staff members on Friday. And it was like my biggest fear, like somebody who was holding so much responsibility in my company would just go away. And she did. And guess what? Nobody fell apart. And I didn't have to stay up all night working, and there were backup plans, and there's people that filled in. I had a couple of friends that said, like, hey, you know what? I'm available for a few hours if you need some help. My tech guy stepped up to the table. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there's always going to be something that you're afraid of. There's always going to be an excuse. There's always going to be a reason to turn back. And it's just not worth it. Like, I promise you that, like, on the other side of that I can't or I'm not good enough, like, really is waiting your dream. And I remember getting off the plane in Bali and just having that wave of like, oh my gosh, this is real. I did this. And then the very next thing that happened, which was the best thing that could have happened, is I had about 5 days to chill in Bali before I had to leave the retreat. My friend Heather, who is leading the retreat with me, some of you might know her. Her name's Heather Houston. She's an international choir director for women. She actually put me on a motorcycle, on a motorbike in Bali, and she made me like cruise through the jungles of Bali for 3 full days, and it was like the most powerful thing that she could have done for me. It's like I got to feel my power again. I wasn't focusing on, how to pick up a few more clients at that point. I was just like Sage in the world, reclaiming my soul. So, the thing that I really want to underline here is that you're never going to feel totally prepared. You're never going to feel like you're totally ready to go or like your ducks are in a row. Just do it anyway. Just life is too short. You just got to do it anyway. Jesse, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
And can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Awesome. I was going to say that does sound like pretty much the funnest thing imaginable right now.
Right?
Is, taking a motorbike through the jungles of Bali. I've had some great memories doing just that. But what a perfect way to kick off the basically what was once just a dream, to actually walk out of that airport and feel the wind in your face and have some time before jumping into the actual training to experience and really like embody it. It feels like the fact that you accomplished it, maybe against many odds and many times when there was voices in your head or external experiences that were trying to hold you back or prevent you from going full bore after it. So, one, it's so admirable that you accomplished that in spite of the circumstances, but it's also so motivational for everybody that's on this call and everybody that hears this to see the progression from what first sounds like a distant dream but seems like something you should really go after to just chipping away at it and taking consistent action in spite of circumstances or anything that is inhibiting that progress, and then ultimately tasting it, that reward and the victory. It's so much sweeter, isn't it? Almost in light of the trials and tribulations that you go through to get there. And that's a feeling that I don't think ever gets old, but sometimes it takes a little work to repeat.
Yeah, yeah. The one thing I want to pull out of that too is that I didn't wait until I was totally clear on how I was going to fill the retreat. I didn't wait until I was totally clear on like what the perfect telesummit message would be. I mean, we launched Women on Purpose I had literally just a few hundred people on my mailing list. We brought in 5,000 for that first event, and now we're reaching over 30,000 women entrepreneurs around the world. And I always operate from the perspective like ready, fire, aim. Like ready, fire, and then aim. And what I tell my clients and what I'll tell all of you is that action comes from clarity. Clarity comes from action. Clarity comes from action and not the other way around. And many of you are overthinking it. And you're thinking you need to have, again, your I's dotted, your T's crossed. You think you need to have the perfect message, the perfect ideal client, the perfect niche, the perfect whatever. Like, stop that. Like, just literally get on the phone tonight or tomorrow, call up a few venues in your community, schedule a signature talk somewhere, get in front of people, start giving your message. Clarity comes from action, and confidence comes from action, and not the other way around. There's no amount of inner work that you can do that's going to prepare you for the actions that you have to take as a business owner. You just have to do it. You just have to get out there and do it. You have to be willing to fall on your face. And here's one more, like one of my hottest Sage tips.
Yes, please.
You have to have people who have your back no matter what. Like, you have to have people who will be there if you do fall on your face. You have to have what I call anchors. I've done many vision quests in my life, and I have a history of studying with indigenous shaman and indigenous teachers. And there's a reality that most cultures in the world and most indigenous cultures actually have embedded in their society and in their traditions some sort of a rite of passage. And we don't really have that as Western society, as Americans. And for those of you who might be calling in from Europe, many of you don't have it either. And what happens when you take away a rite of passage from our life journey is that we literally have not gotten that ability to sort of take back our power from our parents and give it back to the earth. So what happens, and many of you may not know this, and some of you probably do know this, is that in a traditional rite of passage, the elders, like a whole tribe of elders, sort of energetically hold you as you go off onto the land and quest for several days. And what's happening is you're being held by community during that time, and one of the things that you're doing during a rite of passage is you're literally taking your energy back from your earth parents. Like, you're saying, Mom, I know you did the best you could, but you're human. Dad, I know you did the best you could, but you're human. I'm going to take my energy back from the two of you. Thank you very much. I love you for the whole rest of my life, but I know that you can't give me everything that I ultimately need to succeed. I'm going to take that power. I'm going to put it back in the earth. I'm going to connect my spiritual umbilical cord into Mama Earth and into Father Sky. And I am now a whole and complete individual, whether my parents, loved me and were unconditionally amazing and supportive and empowering of me all the time or not. And now I feel supported to go out and live my vision, right? It's a vision quest. That's what gives you the ability to live your vision in the world. And that's what gives me my ability to go actually live my vision, to have the courage to live my vision, is that now I've sort of cut a cord. I still love my parents and they love me, but I've cut an energetic cord in the way that now I'm connected to the earth and to the divine. I'm connected to my own version of universal intelligence, and, get this, is important, I'm connected to other humans who I know have my back no matter what, the elders in my community, the teachers in my community. When you're connected to other humans in that way, when you know that you've got that love no matter what, it's much easier to go out and fall on your face. And so most of us don't have that. Most of us don't have those kinds of connections, and so we have to consciously rebuild them. And so that's why we sign up for mentorship programs. It's why you need to find mentors. It's why you need to find entrepreneurial communities of like-minded individuals who will stand by you as you're living your vision, pick you up if you fall on your face, and be like, I love you exactly as you are, but you can't stay that way. You have to get stronger. You have a vision. I'm going to keep loving you. You can keep falling down, but I'm going to keep loving you as you keep getting up, and try again and try again and try again. So, right here, right now, and after this interview, go and write down the names of half a dozen people that have your back no matter what, and then commit to continuing to foster and cultivate those relationships and those mentors who will help you lead your vision. Because literally, many of us are walking around on the planet with our umbilical cords kind of like swaying around in the wind, because we've never had anything official like a rite of passage where we've actually been able to take our vision and move it into the next level of support.
I think that is so powerful, and that's such poignant advice too. And it makes me think, what difference would you experience going out and when you said one of your first coaches had you go up and have just cold conversations with people out about in supermarkets, on the street. And I've done similar things in a different context, and I realized that without that container, or without at least somebody who's on the same wavelength as you and wants the same things as you do, or wants to support you getting what you want, if you don't have that there, then the psychological barrier to action just seems so much higher, and the consequence, if anything goes remotely not according to plan, which is virtually guaranteed, is so much greater. If you walk up to a stranger in the supermarket and they're like, excuse me, I'm busy right now, and you walk away and there's nobody there to hold you or support you, and you're just like, what am I doing? Am I a crazy person? So to have somebody that's on the same wavelength, I think, is so valuable. And I think what you've done incredibly is carry that through to all aspects of your business, Sage. Because when you first mentioned when you were starting off doing everything yourself and trying to figure it all out and getting frustrated, that's something that I think many first-time entrepreneurs and many entrepreneurs and small business owners in general experience. But it seemed so out of character from what I've known about you, because my whole experience of you so far is bringing communities together and holding the space for people and basically creating the opportunity for people of like mind and shared interest to get to know each other and exchange ideas. So it just seems, and I think, well, tell me if I'm off base here, but that you've carried that theme through all aspects of your business, and probably that seed is in there for everything that you'll plan on doing moving forward.
I couldn't agree more. I absolutely agree. It's been such a relief to know, that there's other ways of doing it, that those connections are currency. And several of the people who I knew I was going to decide to sort of be my anchors in the beginning, like my entrepreneurial sisters who I knew had my back. They were building businesses similar to mine, and I had met them in a program very much like my programs. I included them in my first telesummit, because I knew I knew that if I opened up by interviewing somebody that I knew, loved, and trusted, and if I had a couple of those interviews sprinkled throughout the interview series, that I would be able to keep showing up as comfortable and confident, and that I wasn't doing it alone. I was able to call them up and be like, what do you think about this as a title? And hey, can I send you over a draft of the website and get your feedback on it? And I'm happy to do the same for you when you roll out your website. It's like by enrolling speakers to be a part of what I was doing, I was able to highlight myself as an expert. I actually had 2 interviews myself throughout the series. So I wasn't just an interview host, just like you're not an interview host, Jesse. You've been bringing your wisdom in throughout our entire interview, and I know you're bringing your wisdom in throughout this entire series. But I'll just never forget what a relief it was to find a model that allowed me to reach thousands of people in a way where I was actually collaborating with other entrepreneurs and not competing against them.
That sounds so appealing, and especially timely, as it's something that I've been thinking about recently too, is just really at some point, for everybody out there that's in the process of starting your own business or has tried it before and felt overwhelmed or stretched thin, I think that's a normal experience, but it also highlights, I think, that there's a difference between the real limits of what we're capable of and how much you can accomplish just by learning more and becoming more productive and having time management skills. But it's a whole different level when you bring in the leverage of another person who shares that vision and has their own complementary knowledge, skills, experience, expertise, and that just changes the game. So if you're feeling like you're pressing up against the ceiling or the limit of what's possible or what you know now with the skills, resources, capabilities you have, I'd love for one of your takeaways from this call to be, like Sage mentioned, to write down who are 3, 4, 5, 6 people that have your back no matter what, and have a closer relationship with them. Let them know what you're up to, and don't operate in a vacuum, because it's so easy to second guess yourself or just, or maybe it's just me, but I think it's so easy to diminish the beauty of the vision that we have when you're isolated and it's not being proactively shared, fed back on, and making it more of an iterative process.
Yeah, it's not just you. It's not just you. I think we all get so tempted to go develop content, what I call content in a closet, you know, like business in a closet syndrome. And one of the great things about what Jesse's doing and the telesummit model, like I'm talking about, and I have a resource I'd like to share for you all, in addition to the free gift at my website, you know, definitely. I guess my website isn't on the screen anymore since I called back in, but I'm at sagelavine.com. It's SageLavine.com, sagelavine.com. And Jesse, maybe you can throw it in the email or the chat thread, but there's a couple of free gifts at my website. One of them is an elemental entrepreneurial video that teaches you exactly what steps you need at each of the 4 directions of the elemental wheel to put the systems and structures into place to really build a thriving business. And the other one is a free training that I did using an elemental model and the lens of the elements to really teach the enrollment conversation so that you know how to have an enrollment conversation with a potential client that's coming from a really authentic place. Those free gifts are totally at my website. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that when you do this collaboratively, it just takes so much of the pressure off of you. And it's kind of like what Jesse's saying, like your confidence grows over time. And if you do if and when you decide to do an interview series like this, to do a list build, it's really one of the smartest things that you can do for your business, because first of all, when you have a mailing list, you have more than enough people to promote your products and programs to. So, you know, Jesse's launching his book. He's going to be able to offer all of you a free copy of his book and get his book into the hands of a lot of people right away because of this interview series. One of the great things about doing these interviews is that your body of knowledge actually unfolds throughout the course of the interviews, rather than the other way around. You're actually putting yourself through sort of like a self-induced boot camp in your own messaging, your own tools, your own ability to just show up however you're feeling and facilitate these conversations. And it's so great because you don't have to bring all of your own content yourself. Your speakers bring some of the content. And so it's such an up-leveling, you know, and I'm excited to see. I actually changed my name, Jesse. I don't know if you know this, but I haven't always been Sage. I changed my name during my first telesummit because I felt like such a different person after the telesummit was over. And I'll be curious to see what happens to you after the end of your video summit here, because you've done a beautiful job putting this together, and I can feel you already just like, you know, ready to reach, you know, I know you're already reaching thousands of people. I can feel you're ready to reach tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people.
Well, thank you so much. I haven't thought about the name change, but I'll keep that in mind over the rest of the
We can call you Guru Freedom.
I've had a few different nicknames in my life, but that's funny. Well, look, I totally want to be respectful of your time, and thank you so much for joining us. Oh my gosh, I can't believe
it's already 5 o'clock.
Yeah, so, you know, you don't have to, unless you have to run right away, we can stay on for another moment or two. But I wanted to first thank you for taking the time to come on here, and I know you're so busy. I mean, reiterate that Sage is just sold out the biggest event of her life with hundreds and hundreds of women coming, and so with one team member down, you know, in between putting all the pieces together, so thankful that you took the time to come and share your wisdom and story with us, because I think it's super valuable, and I can just see you light up and really feel like alive, and that you love what you do. And at the end of the day, that's sort of what being a lifestyle entrepreneur is all about, in my mind, and that's to find ways of making money doing what you love, and having it support a lifestyle of creative expression, freedom, travel, and opportunity. And I think very few people embody that more fully than you, Sage. So, so appreciative of you coming on and taking the time to
Yeah,
talk with us.
absolutely.
And, you know, since we've been talking about this format, the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Summit, and how even though I am an author and I have my own book coming out, I really wanted to proactively get other people involved and hear other perspectives. And really, you know, this hour and a half of my day ends up being the most high leverage time because I get to just ask questions and learn, whereas there's 5 or 8 hours of work that goes into preparing each of these, which is fine and a great learning experience. But being able to, this is the reward, I think, for putting in that work, is to get to learn from people like yourself, Sage, and everybody else that's coming on the summit. And I know that you're, in fact, the expert. I didn't realize this at first when I invited you, but that you have a whole training program and product for running telesummits. And then I felt a little embarrassed because I probably could have benefited from going through that before I just jumped in blind with both feet putting together the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Summit.
I should have sent you a copy of it. I will send you a copy of it. So your next one will be, you know, it'll just be like, oh my gosh, it'll be like over the top crazy. But I wanted to put something together that was special for you all. Jesse asked me what I might want to offer you all on the call today. And again, there's some great free gifts at my website. Definitely recommend taking advantage. But if you are interested in hosting your own list build, by doing a expert interview series like Jesse's doing and like I've been talking about, I actually have trained almost 1,000 telesummit hosts myself. So many people have hopped on our telesummits. I've done the Women on Purpose telesummit. I've also rolled out a summit called New Wealth, and I've also rolled out a summit called Spiritual Business Bootcamp. And each of them attracted over 10,000 listeners for each one. And so many people have asked me to please train them how to do these things because I'm doing some really innovative things to get those kinds of numbers of people to show up and to actually create the communities with each of those events that I've created. And so many people emailed in and said, will you train me to do this, that I ended up putting together a group training program so that I didn't have to charge people $10,000 a pop just to learn how to do this. And I've actually pulled some of the most important pieces of that program out of the program. It's usually a 6-week program, which you can absolutely get on my website. You can navigate your way there. It's about a $1,000 program. But what I've done, because I know some of you are in other programs and some of you know a little bit about internet marketing already, is I've pulled my master promotion schedule, my master checklist, my hottest tips for doing $50,000 interviews. So when I do these kinds of interviews myself, I've had speakers who have sold $50,000 worth of product in one interview. And the way that we've done that is very specific. We've been able to pull a specific, a very specific set of content out of those speakers that really helps people understand why they would want to invest in that speaker's products, programs, and services. And that's just from selling $100 packages of audio trainings and things like that. So many of you have listened to interviews like this. Many of you have heard speakers make $100 offers, on $97 offers on these interviews. I'm a very transparent person. I'll tell you what I'm doing when I'm making my offer. I'll tell you how I'm doing it. That's just who I am. It's how I teach. I believe it's the future of sales, is just to be totally transparent. Here's what's happening. I'm making you an offer right now. I interviewed some of the top telesummit hosts in the world, and I asked them, you know, how do you position your speaker so that your speaker can actually generate $50,000 in one interview? I diffused those. Jennifer Blackard and I, Jennifer, who's reached 250,000 people, I think, with New Wealth Experience, we diffused down 8 questions that you should ask every speaker that you interview. Some of those questions I sent over to you, Jesse, were in there. I'm happy to send those to you. But those 8 questions and that training audio in terms of like how to create an interview that could actually generate $50,000 in sales, that's all in this $100 kit that I'm telling you about right now. And I believe it's at sagelavine.com /.
I just put the link in.
Good.
And everybody that's watching from the page, on the summit page, if you refresh it now, you'll see a clear button and a link in the chat box that'll take you right to that amazing and highly discounted offer that Sage is sharing with us on how you can put together a summit like this and grow your list and influence, which is actually the title of this call, using a format that Sage is one of the best in the world at doing. And I think her results speak for themselves. And thanks so much for offering that big discount and super useful toolkit for everybody that's on this call.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I highly recommend grabbing it. For 97 bucks, you get our sample speaker contracts, you get our sample speaker, our promotion schedule, you get links to some of the very best interviews that I did with some of the top Telesummit hosts who are going to really tell you exactly what they did to put the Telesummit together. So you'll be able to see everything that you get on that page, sagelavine.com/starter kit, summit kit, I believe, and the good news is that these kinds of collaborative strategies are strategies that you can apply all over the board, whether you're local or whether you're online. Enrolling other experts to really back you up and be a part of what you're doing and promote you is really the fastest way to get the word out about what you're doing, right? You're taking advantage of relationship marketing. And, you know, even with all of the SEO optimization and the Facebook ads and all of the things that you can do online to generate traffic, none of that holds a candle to relationship marketing. Because when I send an email out to my database and I let them know that they should trust Jesse, that he's leading the Lifestyle Entrepreneur Summit and he's a friend of mine and he walks his talk and he's the real deal, Jesse can get, you know, hundreds of people opting in for this thing in just a matter of a few hours. Because they've had that personal reference from me. It's like a personal recommendation, right? And relationship marketing not only is the most powerful form of marketing on the planet still to this day, but you generate better leads because those leads are people who actually know, like, and trust you from the beginning versus traffic that you might pull up the web through SEO or through Facebook. Those are very cold leads, right? They don't know you yet at all. So I highly recommend looking into formats like this and studying Jesse and studying, you know, everything that he does for the rest of these interviews, the way that he rolls this thing out, because he's doing a great job. And it's just been a blast to be here with all of you today.
You are the best, Sage. Thank you so much for joining. And you know, on behalf of everybody that's listening to this and may not be able to speak with their voice, I know we all wish you an amazing event coming up, your biggest yet. That's just so huge. So want to let you know that now we're part of your circle that's here for you and supports your vision no matter what. And so hopefully, if nothing else, you've got another person cheering for you in your corner. Well,
thank you, Jesse.
much more than that. But
thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Sage, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.